Hey guys, Job here, the local, and we are back with the next episode. This episode will be all about the Belizean-American Dream. Basically, as many Belizeans here may have families back in the States who moved there 20, 30 years ago, and they've made a life in the States, they've come back, they've had kids in the States, or someone who's going back to the States right now to try to make a better life for themselves. I know currently we've had a large number of Belizeans moving to the States just because overall cost of living here in Belize has increased, inflation has increased. I know a lot of Belizeans have this sentiment that there is very little hope or very little hope for something bigger here in Belize for them. Fortunately, at least I'm blessed that I don't feel like I've ever been in that situation where I felt some people have felt the need. It's not that they want to, it's like the need that they don't feel like here they can get better. So that's basically all that we're going to be talking about. And in this episode, we have
Rachel, the Gringo.
And then we have the special guest for this, which is Justin Solis. We're going to let him introduce himself a bit.
Hey everybody, my name is Justin Solis. I am a Belizean-American. My father was born here. I lived on the island for about 3 years, opened up Juice Dive with him. I now live in Austin, Texas. For my career, I'm actually an enterprise account executive in software sales and have a few side businesses, one of which is helping people break into this career who have like a diverse background. So I like helping people find a new path, and also I do like sales training and consulting as well.
Absolutely. And Justin, I remember how we met back in 2017 when he came here on the island. It was through Rotaract, right? You remember?
Yes.
You remember us handing out condoms for...
That was a great night. That was one of my favorite memory here. Yeah, it was a good time. Some people grabbed more than they needed, I think.
they were hoping to have a good night.
The ones you didn't grab enough. The ones you should have didn't grab enough.
And you know what? The funny thing is, I was just seeing that it was Rotaract Week last week. So it was right around this time, back in 2017, that we were out at the Central Park handing out condoms. And then we have a picture where we went to, you remember we went to the Anglican school and we were teaching kids how to brush their teeth?
Yes. We did the oral hygiene. And then, I remember we did the campaign where we did all the little trash cans everywhere, all over the island as well.
Yeah. So that's basically where I know Justin. And Rachel, where do you know Justin from?
The island.
The island.
It's a small place here, and you tend to see people if you're out and about and doing things. And I think it's just from the friend groups and over mixing with the groups.
You were in the same friend group as my ex-girlfriend, Michaela, too.
Yeah.
I think that's how we ended up hanging out.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I remember, I guess it was a few years ago, when our company, when I was working with a development company, they wanted to do some more with HubSpot. Remember the CRM system? And so we had a call to go through like how our company could amplify HubSpot, and they didn't end up doing anything. But I know that you're very educated. For anyone wanting to use CRM system, this is your guy. But Justin definitely knows platforms and CRM systems.
No, that was actually the beginning of when I started looking into doing consulting, because I realized that there was actually a large need. So it's actually been a good experience since then.
Oh, that's awesome. And consulting, you said, in just business and helping people like get to that next level?
Or? I mainly work with early stage founders in the technology space to help them do things like that, like setting up CRM, creating predictable sales stages, building out scripts for cold calls, like how to build pipeline, things like that. Because a lot of times founders don't have a sales background; they have like a finance or like an engineering background, and so that's where I come in.
And you really need to have that down pat, especially, businesses need sales. That's how they survive.
Exactly,
so if you're able to get that sales part figured out. Are you doing any work with businesses here in Belize in that regard?
Not yet, but I would be super interested in seeing what kind of opportunities are. That was actually part of the reason I was excited to chat with you, because I think with the real estate business, from my friends who I know who work for a few different outfits here, it doesn't seem like they're the most dialed in when it comes to technology or creating predictable revenue.
Yep.
So if you know of any opportunities, I'm more than willing to hear.
I know a lot of people here use Excel.
Yeah.
God bless Excel. Excel is awesome, right? It can show you a lot and great with formulas and calculations, but I know that CRM systems are really powerful.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to break into the Keller Williams CRM. I put in the data, but I haven't went in and learned the CRM, and I still do a little bit of Excel, MailChimp, and I'm trying. I'm a one-man team, so I'm trying to do my best. And that's what kind of I think I've also been following Justin a bit. I like his his enthusiasm when he talks and in the videos he does. I haven't really dived into his content, but I know he talks about sales and stuff like that. You know, I'm in sales, you're in sales,
Yes.
so that is something definitely. I think you could like probably maybe even set up something here like a one time a year, or maybe a first time kind of like sales seminar, something
Yeah.
where you
I would
pitch
love to do
here.
that. Yeah, I
You
would
know,
love to do
something,
that.
just like a overview of what's going on in sales and how you can make your sales team better and your scripts and what's that. And then maybe that's how you get other people to, okay, let's dive more deep into this.
Yeah, let's
I think
talk
that's,
about that. Yeah,
I think
I'd
that's
love
a
to do
good
that.
idea. But so Justin, I know you have a pretty interesting story about, you were born in the US, but you are Belizean by descent and you've been coming here since
1997, first time
1997.
came here. Yeah.
That's about, yeah, I was born in 1997, so you're about 8 years older than me, right?
Yeah, 34.
34. That's the math. So tell us a little bit about your family's background moving to the States.
Yeah, so my dad is one of 7 kids. My grandfather is from Belize, obviously, and all of my family was born here. And I think they reached a point where they wanted to create a better life for themselves. There wasn't a lot of opportunity to get visas, so my grandfather actually got a visitor's visa for himself and all the kids. And we had family in New York, which, as you know, is probably the furthest place that you could go from Belize. But they made it all the way from here to New York by bus. My grandfather, 7 kids, his wife, his sister as well, lived in a 1-bedroom apartment in the Bronx in the 70s, which, if you know anything about New York economy back then, it was not good. Their landlord used to set the building on fire on a regular basis to try to collect insurance money. So they lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, really hard. But my grandfather, he would work literally 3 jobs, take the train all night, sometimes never come home because he'd fall asleep on the train. And he did all that work to put all 7 of his kids through private school because he knew that the public school system in New York was bad. So my dad would tell stories about doing homework by candlelight because they don't have electricity, but they would all put on shirt and tie in the morning to go to school. So my grandfather created opportunities for my family, and every single one of his 7 kids got college degrees or advanced degrees, lawyers, and no doctors yet. But it's, my grandfather was an incredible patriarch, and he's the reason that I have had all the opportunities in my life afforded to me.
Absolutely, and that you just mentioned, and that is kind of the basic background of the Belizean dream of going to the States. Um, Tell me how you went by. You were born in the States. How did you went by getting related to about your Belizean heritage?
It's funny because growing up, people always ask you where you're from, where's your family from, and I say Belize. And back in the 90s, early 2000s, nobody had heard of Belize in the States. People were like, where is that? I had to break out a map and show them. And I never felt, my grandfather, he's black, and my grandmother, she's Hispanic. And then my mother, that my dad married, she's black and she's white. So I'm mixed with a lot of different things, and I never really fit in anywhere. I remember meeting other black people and they say, oh, you're not black, you're Caribbean or whatever. And I remember coming back to Belize in 1997 and walking down those stairs, and I grabbed my dad and said, this is the first time in my life I've ever seen people that look like me. And so immediately felt just an incredible connection to the country. It was, meeting people I had never met that were my family, going to the city and bringing back, boxes of things for everybody, medicine and gifts and stuff.
You were the VIP guest.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody very happy to see you come home. And, just, eating my first plate of stewed chicken and Johnny Cakes and things like that, stuff that I only had special occasions when my grandparents would make it. It was like just here, And so it was just a very, I don't know, just like I felt like this was home immediately.
You did. And within your travels, and you've come back and forth. You came back in 2017. You introduced a very new concept to the island in itself, and it was vegan eating and also cold pressed juices. I remember. How did that idea came to be? Because I know you were the one behind it at first. I know you and your young brother were here. I never saw your dad came into the picture until a little bit after. How did that come to be?
So we'd been visiting Belize for a long time, and actually I'm not vegan. I love meat, but my sisters are all vegan, and so we had come here, and my sisters got tired of eating rice and beans. It was like the only thing that they could eat. There was no vegan food, and then when you go back to the States, you could do a layover in Miami. So we had a layover in Miami overnight, and we went to go out and have vegan food and cold pressed juice, and it was so fucking expensive. And then we also had read an article in Forbes that said that veganism was going to become the biggest trend of 2017. And so it kind of was a light bulb moment because my dad and I have been talking about how do we come back to Belize and start a business. So we should start a business selling vegan food and cold pressed juice because it just seemed like a big opportunity. And so we came here, we found that place on Middle Street for cheap, and we did a full remodel on that. We wanted everything to be like, like top notch. I wanted to feel like you walk in there and you walk into a store in the States. And then the hardest part was just sourcing all of the produce, because as you know, produce on the island is so expensive. And so my dad and I actually rented a car. We drove all over the mainland, and we went and we talked with farmers, and we found a direct connection to be able to get everything. And we paid somebody to come bring a truckload of that stuff to the boat once a week. So we had our own pipeline for the produce and everything to keep the prices down. And as you know, we do the Belize rate for all Belizeans because we wanted to also bring healthy food to the community at an affordable price.
Yeah, I remember that spot. I used to enjoy it a lot. I know a lot of people also enjoyed the juice cleanses you used to make. And that's just basically why I also got introduced with you. Kate had to do the juice cleanses every now and then.
Yeah, Macarena did too. It's good because, if you're at Goma or whatever, that's the best way to help you get over it.
Tell me, yeah, you are as Belizean and as an American as it gets. What were first the talk about the business aspect, about running a business in Belize and the difficulties that you came across? Because I know a lot of people that, they come to Belize and they think that opening a business in Belize is like doing one in the States, and they have no idea. So tell me about the major lessons and hurdles that you had to go through when it comes to running a business, and then just basically overall major hurdles and culture shocks that when you came down and you settled for a while, that you had to get used to.
Yeah, I think, in America, you're used to a certain level of bureaucracy that is predictable, right? Like there's a certain process and the way you get things done, do certain paperwork, and you get a certain result, and everybody pays the same amount for everything. That is not the case in Belize, right? In Belize, it's all about who you know, right? I remember when we were bringing in our equipment, and they try to charge us this astronomical amount for duty, which is like, where are you getting this number from? And so we quickly learned that, okay, you got to make friends with the top brass who's bringing in the stuff, because you need to make sure he's the one that you pay, because if you pay below him, then somebody got to pay above him, and so on and so forth. So I think that was like a big culture shock, is recognizing that, like, there's a little bit of corruption when it comes to getting things done. Yeah, just a sprinkle of corruption. And so that was the biggest thing. But once we started to, build a network, and luckily I have family here still, I have a cousin who's in the ministry too, so introduce us to the right people. That made it a lot easier to make sure that we weren't getting our pockets completely, emptied every time we wanted to bring something from the States or wanted to get a permit for something, right? Like you got to know somebody at Baja, because we were the first to import acai into Belize. And so that was a whole ordeal, because the fruit had never been brought into the country. And so we had to actually order acai, even though it's in Brazil, that's where it comes from. We had to get it from America, because it had to go from Brazil to America, be processed in America to be approved by Baja. So like little things like that were complicated to figure out. But yeah, once you have a good network, and once you know who to pay and what things are really rules that are enforced and some things that are rules that people will look away from, then you could start making better business decisions. Because I think that's the hardest part, is like keeping your startup costs as low as possible to try to start building, positive revenue.
That's very important. And you know what? One of the videos that we're gonna submit. You said a video about that little girl that they asked her. There's an interview of a little girl that they asked her, what do you want to be when you grow up? And she said, I want to be a customs officer. and then she says, why? Well, my uncle is a customs officer. He makes a lot of money. And they air this in national news. We're going to put the clip.
That's adorable.
But the thing, that's a good business plan. Good business career here.
I want to be a customs officer too.
No, but you are right when it comes to, and this is one thing that you touched that I want to highlight, keeping your startup costs as low as possible. Because the reality of the matter is, as you've mentioned it for yourself, when you come down here and you're trying to open a business, a lot of Belizeans, a lot of people are going to see you as an opportunity to make the most money that they can from you. And I say this because I just had one of my buyers, he needs to clear his lot. He needs to fill it up. He asked someone how much would it cost to clear his lot. It's a pretty big lot. This person quoted him 8,000 US. I introduced him to another guy. Guy went up, sorry lad, I can do this for 5. The guy said, US? That's a good deal. He said, no, 5 Belize.
No,
And I'm like, geez. But you just said it. You know, you have to be smart enough about when you come here to keep your startup costs low, because then you might find yourself ending up dry pockets and having to move back in the States.
Well, and the bigger part is the connections that you just said. You know, as you knew somebody who could offer the service, you were the one who brokered that deal, right? For lack of a better word. And so he was able to get a much better rate. But you're exactly right. If you don't know anyone here, it's a lot harder. Just bring a little bit more money with you. Unless you have the relationships, right? Because it's a lot more difficult.
And I think starting on the ground and just getting to know the community before you even spend a single dollar is key. Because we took a lot of trips here, spend weeks here at a time, getting to know people and getting to know how things worked. And I think one other thing on the topic of building a successful business here is I see a lot of expats come here and they build businesses with the sole focus of making money off expats, which is fine and dandy. But if you don't have a strong, tie-in with the local community, then you're going to get screwed when it comes to off season. Because even the expats that live here, they leave for long periods of time. And high season is great when you have all the Americans and Europeans here, but low season is where businesses live or die. And so if you don't have locals that come and patronize your business, you're going to be screwed.
Yeah, it's true. And I totally agree with what you were just saying, is coming down and spending time here, because then you have a better idea of what would work and not work. And so many times Americans will come down on vacation. They're like, you know what you guys really need here? And they're like, what do we really need here? And then they'll come up with some, like, remember the paintball place that was here? I mean, that's a fun concept in the States where like it's 75 degrees, but here where it's 90 degrees, 90% humidity, like, you know, who's going to be running around the little jungle with a paintball gun, you know? Like, so it's important to see what you think would do well here just by studying the market.
You know what? You know what's funny? One time I had this call with a buyer, and they said, we are gonna open the next truck stop of Secret Beach.
Okay.
And I'm like, if I had a sale for every time I've heard that before. You know, everybody wants to open the next truck stop at Secret Beach, and I'm like, good luck.
Well, you know, people don't see the hard work that goes into it. You know, the original owners of truck stops.
Yeah, exactly. The original owners and how much
die. You know, that they were just operating that property there as well as they could.
Yeah,
and they were experienced. You know, they had other business experience here on the island, which I think helps.
Absolutely. And the next thing that you can be an example from, Justin, is that he was here, and you just mentioned it. You have to live and breathe the business here. You can't think that you can just come set up a business and go back and it will run on itself. That's just not.
That's another thing too, is employing Belize. You know, that the phrase, you know, a dollar for you, a dollar for me. You know what I mean? If you're not watching your register, and if you're not there to make sure that the standards that you set, you know, that's why so many places they have all these creative menu items and they end up selling rice and beans within the next year because it's too hard to maintain.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So every time you've come to Belize prior to 2017, it was a vacation, right? How long would you say was the most amount of time that you'd spent in the country? 2
weeks max.
2 weeks. And so in 2017, what prompted you to move down here to Belize?
So we had been talking about starting a business in Belize for a while. And then actually I had been working in software sales for like 2.5 years at that point, and actually won some money from a lawsuit with that company. And so I was able to take some time off for an extended period. And my dad was like, let's use this opportunity to go to Belize and start this business. So it was kind of just serendipitous, just like the way things were working out with life. There was time. And I was like fed up with work for that point in my life. And so, I wanted to come here. And in my mind, I thought I would stay here forever.
Right.
And I thought, I was like, okay, I'm ready to experience retirement
in
my late 20s.
And the settlement, life's good, go to Belize, retire, start a business.
Exactly, right? But, you know, it was, I think I got a little stir crazy after a couple of years.
Yeah, did you? But let me go back to 2017 for a second. So when you first got here, and you're getting the business started and everything, and yes, you're going through the hoops and hurdles and understanding who to work with and whatnot. What were some of the initial shocks, like culture, whether it was culture shocks, because you were now here for a longer period of time, which segues into the stir craziness, right? You were here for a longer period of time. So what were some of the things that maybe you didn't expect to happen that did happen?
I didn't expect there to be so much temptation, if I'll be honest with you.
All right. Job and I have talked about this in the first episode, yes.
I think, when my plan was I come here, I'm going to work, I figured I'd party a little bit, but, this is an island where people are always on vacation, people work in the vacation industry. So, drinking is very much like a part of social interaction starting early in the day. You know what I mean? There's a lot of other temptation readily available. I don't know. People don't always respect the confines of their relationships here as often as you would see in the States. And so there's a lot of things to get yourself off track. I think that was a bit of a shock for me. I wasn't expecting that.
Right.
And I think also, just like from a business perspective, like, I wasn't expecting. There are a lot of people who run businesses here with the purpose of making money. I think other people run business here because it's like a hobby.
Something to do.
Something to do, exactly, right? And so I think I was surprised to see how little social media was being used outside of Facebook, or people didn't have websites. People didn't do anything when it came to search engine optimization to try to attract customers. So that was a shock, but a pleasant one, because when we started to implement all the different strategies that we knew from running business in the States and didn't have a lot of competition doing that, I think it gave us a distinct advantage.
Huge. Well, and let me tell you something. So that was 2017. We're in 2024, and businesses still don't have websites. They're still on Facebook. And if you are a visitor and you don't have Facebook, well, you're not going to know the latest thing to do on Thursday night. I'll tell you that, right? So if you ever want to come back and help businesses from that aspect, the SEO, everything, there's just, I think, so much opportunity here. But you have to teach businesses why it's important, right? Because a lot of businesses are doing just fine with how they're currently operating, but I think there's definitely a lot more opportunity. I see
it's
Joe.
Funny, like the thing you mentioned just now about business, you just even Facebook. Like sometimes I go to some restaurant Facebook pages, and you know how you can have literally a menu tab where you can create and you can create your own menu. Some restaurants don't even have that set up, and it's amazing how they've survived. And you have to go through their gallery and see the pictures of the food, and it's.
We just did this yesterday for one of the restaurants here. Yes. And you click the website because they have the website. There is a website on their Facebook page. You click it, that's broken. So then we ended up in TripAdvisor from 2017, seeing the menu that someone posted. I'm like, is this still the same menu?
Probably not. And the hours are always made up.
It was. But the prices were different, so we got charged differently than what was on there.
Well, people say they close this day or they close at this time, and then that's not right. They don't open at the time they say. So
So how's Juice Live going now?
So actually, we recently closed a Front Street location, and we're going to be announcing a new location shortly.
Exciting.
We'll keep that under wraps right now. But yeah, we're going to be doing something a little different.
Well, very exciting. Well, I'm guessing in our podcast here, we'll be able to put the link below of where the new location is when you do disclose that, because I know that even if you're not a vegan, I got to tell you, the Beyond Burger that you have, the cheeseburger is so good. I was telling you to get it.
I had the Impossible Chicken or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
You sure that's not chicken?
It's not chicken, bro. It's not chicken.
Let me tell you, I had that sandwich, and I think I have a picture. I'll put it in. I'm questioning if this is chicken or if this is not.
Some of the vegan things taste better than the real deal, especially, because in Running W, you don't always have the best beef,
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, beef here is not. You're doing a service.
Cows are too skinny.
Possible, yeah. That is very true.
So, and one of the next things that I've always like about you and following on social media is just overall that I'd say you're pretty well traveled and probably the average Belizean, right? I always see you all over the place. I'm like, man, when I grow up, I want to be like Justin. Germany and Colombia and here and there and in airport lounges, and I'm like, man, this guy's living it. This is my goal. But share a little bit about your travel experience out abroad because I know a lot of Belizeans, especially Belizeans that, are out here trying to make it, myself included, may find some inspiration. And, bear in mind, you are American, but realize that if you put yourself to it and you learn a different trade, like what you do, and you can find other possibilities outside of just Belize, outside of the status quo. Like giving you an example, call centers were not a thing until a couple of years, and now they have. I dated someone who was working on a call center, and she went from just being a regular call center to now being a manager of a group and those type of opportunities. Give us the whole spiel of that, a little bit about what you do and how you got there, and then about where you travel.
Yeah, so I mean, the way that I never graduated from college. I dropped out of school, and for a long time, I actually worked a bunch of minimum wage jobs. I lived at my aunt's house because she let me stay there for watching her kids. So when I was 25 years old, I was kind of like floating around. I was kind of lost, and I worked at this tennis club was one of my minimum wage jobs, and I saw these people's balances. They had like $3,000 in tennis lessons. They're 25 years old. I'm like, what the fuck do you do? Excuse my language. And then also I work in tech. And at the time I'm living in San Francisco, the tech industry is blowing up. And I was like, I want to be in tech. And so I actually ended up getting a sales job at that tennis club selling memberships. That's where I learned how to cold call. I learned how to use CRM, learned how to do emailing, things like that. And so I developed the basic skills, and I just started applying for tech jobs. And it took me a year to land my first job at this struggling company that was doing really poorly, actually. Then they ended up raising a round of funding and becoming successful. They actually IPO'd a few years ago. And so that was able to like set up the basis for my career. And prior to that, I'd never been anywhere besides Belize, actually. Growing up, this was the only place we would come. I would say, Dad, can we go to Hawaii? I'd say, why? The beaches are beautiful in Belize. We don't need to go anywhere. Plus we had to bring things back for family. And there's five of us kids in my family, so it's hard to, go on vacation with all of us. So when I started my career in sales, and for the first time in my life, I had a little bit of extra money, the first thing that I wanted to do was travel. And so, I lived paycheck to paycheck probably until I was 30 because I spent all my money on stuff that I wanted to experience. And I used to regret it, but actually don't anymore because, the money comes and goes, but those experiences mean so much. And so I think prioritizing travel was something that I did. And I worked at a hostel, actually, one of those minimum wage jobs. And I would meet these kids from Australia and New Zealand who came to San Francisco. They were staying at the hostel and they were like 18, 19 years old. And I would ask them how they afford to do it. So, I saved up all my money and this is going to be everything I have. So I think a lot of people don't realize the value of travel, which is getting to experience other cultures, getting different perspectives. And also, if you do want to be an entrepreneur, I think there's few better ways to come up with ideas and to go and see what's happening in other cultures and what they're doing. Because so many ideas come from abroad, right? Especially in Belize, we didn't make up juice dive, right? Like we had an experience at a bunch of places in the States and in Europe that had that business and we copied it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So for me, like traveling is just a way for me to expand my horizons, educate myself in a way more fun way than in the classroom. And as far as being able to make it happen, it's like it's hard in Belize because most people live really close to the bone. But I think if you can find a way to take your extra cash, squirrel it away, it's a worthy investment.
Yeah,
and that's a great point, though, right? Because a lot of times I think when people get the paychecks, they're running to the bars, right? And you experienced this when you were here. People run to the bars, and the moment that they get out of work and they get their paycheck, they are having Belkin after Belkin after Belkin. Yep,
it's true, and some people don't get out of that life of partying every weekend, and then they and I saw a post this time that they were saying about how traveling in Belize is expensive, and I said, yeah, but there are people who travel all over the world because they bust their ass, they've saved all their money, and then they go to travel, and it's expensive. Traveling can be expensive if you make it expensive, right? And I think that's one of the mentalities here in Belize. They wanna spend the money to look good, to good drink, to appear alive, and then just be broke afterwards.
Yeah,
which is personally with me. I mean, I've never cared about how I look, but I've always liked to drink and eat.
I was gonna say, Joe, you've worn those pants like 5 days in a row, haven't you?
Good put our boy on blast.
Okay, Rachel, you don't need to put me out like that, all right? We're going
Just
through
kidding.
a little crisis.
Joe's saving his money for travels, guys. Accepting donations.
Yeah, but what are some places you've hit?
Oh man,
Outside of Belize.
so recently I spent 6 months because I work remotely, so I can work from anywhere in the world, and so another way to save money actually leaving the States. So I spent some time in Mexico and Oaxaca and Tulum, and also in Mexico City, Lima, Chile, Medellin, Colombia. But I've been around Europe too, France, Germany, Netherlands, UK. So yeah, I mean, any chance that I get, working in sales, it's hard to take long periods of time off, but normally at the end of the year, I get like 2 or 3 weeks. And so I use that time for travel and then take a lot of like long weekend trips when I can find good deals on flights.
Do you have a favorite that you've been to?
My favorite
I know,
place.
that's
so
hard.
hard. Honestly, Czech Republic, Prague, probably one of my favorite cities in Europe. A lot of people don't know this, but a lot of the architecture in Europe was destroyed by bombs in World War II, and Czech Republic was one of the few places that was untouched. So it's like a lot of original architecture. I'm really into that. And then I think, honestly, like it was a recent trip, but Lima was amazing. The food is so good. It's such a beautiful place. I love it. But honestly, my favorite place is Belize.
Yeah, it's home.
Yeah.
We're going to force him to say that.
Do you like rice and beans?
I love rice and beans, yeah.
Do you speak Creole?
Not well. I speak Creole well enough for white people to think I speak Creole, but if I speak Creole around Belizeans, they're gonna make fun of me.
Got it. And Spanish? What about Spanish?
Solamente un poquito, pero
It sounded pretty good to me.
I studied Spanish at school. Interesting enough, my grandparents spoke fluent Spanish, but when they came to the States, and since nobody had visas or anything, they wanted their kids to speak English.
Right.
You know what I mean? So they didn't teach them Spanish because they wanted them, to not get caught up.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, let's talk about your favorite mainland activity and restaurant that if you had only one place to go to do an activity and one place to go eat, where would those places be in the mainland?
Shoosh, that's tough. Okay, so this is a random hole in the wall in Belize City called D&D's, and they have a really good split pea and rice with pigtail. Also, the tamales are really good too. That's probably my favorite on the mainland.
In Belize City.
In Belize City, yeah, but not a lot.
Is it known? You can tell a taxi cab take me to D&D.
D&D's, I think so. Yeah, that's the first time I had it. It was with the taxi driver. He took me there. So yeah.
So just go
There's
ask
a
a
sign?
random.
Is there a sign?
Yeah,
You
there's
know
a sign,
where it
yeah.
is?
I don't know where it is. Of course, Dario's meat pies too.
Oh,
They
Dario's
have them
meat
fresh
pies.
and not flown in is nice. As far as activity, I love Cayo. There's a little hotel there, Midas, where they have the little bungalows in the back. Whenever I would feel overwhelmed with the stress of being here and it's so hot, just go into the mountains. It's like a totally different type of vibe from a cultural perspective, but also the weather, and it's so lush and green. You go check out the caves and things like that. So that's probably one of my favorite things to do on the mainland.
How about here in the island?
I learned how to dive here on the island. So every time I come back to the island, obviously you have the most beautiful barrier reef in the world. So I think just a day of diving, or if I have family and friends here, go to Holchan and do a little day of fishing and do grilling up on the beach. I feel like that's just like such a unique Belizean
No matter
experience.
how many times you do it, it just never gets old.
Yeah, everyone that I bring here, we have a day like that, they still talk about it for years, about how it's the best day I ever had. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked about diving with Ian about how Belizeans needs to start getting into diving too as well, because it's a whole different world out
We
there.
should create an opportunity for, like, I don't understand like why there isn't money being raised to give Belizeans the opportunity to do things like that. It actually, one of the things that really upset me is how little Belizeans get to experience things like that in their own country. When people fly here with so much extra money, like, you go for a dive, pay for a dive for a Belizean. They should have that option at the dive shop.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think aren't there summer camps? Like there are some summer camps
For kids.
For kids,
For
where
kids.
they had, I think, some pretty affordable or attractive rates. Ramones, is it? I think they do some sort of camp too as well, and sponsorships for some of the local
good.
kids, and it's up to a certain age, right? But it's not obviously everyone. It's just first come, first served basis.
Yeah.
But more like that, I totally agree with that, because you ask, some of the locals, like, what's your favorite thing to do here? And they may just regurgitate what they've heard, but never actually had the experience.
Yeah.
But when you're able to do it, you're able to really speak about it authentically.
Yeah, agreed.
Like I told you about the Blue Hole, that was my first time, and it really was magical.
But let me ask you something, since you grew up in the Bronx. Have you been to the Statue of Liberty?
I actually have never been to
See?
the Statue of Liberty.
It's like the thing when you grow up in the area. I grew up in Westchester, right? Not New York City technically, or at all, but I've never been to the Statue of Liberty either.
No.
And so people are like, oh, you got to do what's in your backyard. And sometimes I think that here, because I don't remember the last time I went into the Caribbean waters, right? But like, sometimes when you're just so caught up in life, you just forget to experience.
That's true. I've never been to Alcatraz either. I lived in San Francisco, so that's a good point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Very close too.
No.
So is there something in Belize that you want to do that you haven't had the chance to do yet?
Actually, I've never been a Blue Hole because it's such an expense and also just like a full day thing.
Right.
I would love to do Blue Hole dive. Yeah, that would be it.
I did it my first time a couple months ago. It was really worth it. Obviously, take it on a day, when the weather here, like September, when the weather is like calm.
Yeah. Yeah, now that would be top of my list for sure. Haven't done that.
Maybe next time
Yeah.
we go do a couple days out to some random island up there. We live there.
Let's do
We
it.
live there. We do Mr. Beast video. We survived 7 days in a stranded island. Got a helicopter drop a box.
Or go sleep at the neighboring hotel.
No, we won't lie our audience like that. But Rachel, I know you, to wrap up, I know you have this one question you ask all our guests.
If you were mayor of San Pedro, is there anything that you would focus on or change?
If I was mayor of San Pedro,
One thing you could change, what would it be?
I would be more responsible about the use of resources on the island, and I would probably put less of a priority on growth at all costs and more on sustainable growth.
Love it.
Because I feel like that's one of the biggest threats to the island. Like, you know, first time I came here, you had sand roads. It looked like Kikaker back then, you know what I mean? And Elvie's kitchen was a sand floor. And, you know, it just coming back here now, I've been back in a year and a half, and just like seeing the development, it makes me happy because I'm glad that there's going to be more opportunity and that there'll be more of a shine on the island. But if it's to the detriment of, you know, the ecological, you know, aspect of the island, I don't think that's good for anybody.
Yep.
And so that would be the thing I would change, is just try to focus more on sustainable growth and the ecological aspects.
I love it. I love it. And I know that has been a focus, it sounds like, from the administration, right? Is urban planning to some extent, because right now it's just like, oh, let's put a road here, let's put a road here, there's no zoning, there's none of that that's currently happening, but it sounds like hopefully.
Yeah. And if you can afford to, you know, pay for a zone to disappear or a permit to appear, you know, that's the problem, honestly.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, of course.
Absolutely. All right, then, well, this is the best note to end it with.
The Gringo.
And I'm the local.
Justin Solis.
He is the half Gringo, half local. Yeah. And thank you for watching. Remember, if you're watching on YouTube, our social media links are in the descriptions below. We would highly appreciate if you reach out, follow us, give us a like, share this video if you really liked it. If you're following us through our social medias, we would love to hear from you. You'd love to hear about your feedback on this episode, and also about things that you'd like to hear more about. Because at the end of the day, this episode literally came out from me seeing you coming to Belize. I'm saying, I think this is going to be a great personality to have. From then I thought about it and I said, let's make it happen. And I was clearly not prepared, but I think it came out great, right?
I fooled me. I thought
you did great. I showed up an hour late. You know, like, it's good. We got it figured out.
I forgot to bring the chairs. I forgot to bring the trays.
We were going to sit on the floor in this episode. Change it up a bit. And then also go visit Juice Dive in the new location, wherever they're at.
Yeah, and we'll put it down there in the descriptions. And even if when the video is ready, he's not opened yet, when it does, we'll plug it in there in the descriptions. Appreciate that. Thank you for watching, guys.
Bye, everyone.